You're watching Chicago Bears Now. I am your host, Harrison Graham, and coming up on today's show, we're going to do a little bit of a different type of episode here, as on today's show, it's not the latest news and rumors or injury updates or anything like that, but we're going to take a look at the Bears' chances to get the number one pick in the NFL draft, because they do have a chance, and we are also going to explore why it's important. I'm going to explain to you why it would be critical if the Bears could get that number one pick. So we'll do all of that coming up here on today's show, as I think it would be critical for the Bears to get that number one pick in the NFL draft. So all of that and more coming up on today's show. And some of you saying, what are the odds? What are the chances of the Bears actually getting the number one pick? Well, there's not like an exact science, but the New York Times playoff simulator also has number one pick simulation odds, and we'll break those down here in just a second. But first, who do you guys think will get the number one pick? Type CHI for the Chicago Bears, type HOU for the Houston Texans. It's really down to these two teams, barring something unforeseen. I mean, Houston would have to win their final two. The Bears would have to win at least a game, and then a 4-win team would have to lose out. So there's a lot that would have to happen to bring another team in play. But if you had to guess right now, CHI for the Bears or HOU for the Texans. So here are the Bears' number one pick odds. Right now, going into Week 17, the New York Times playoff simulator, which also does number one pick simulations, 29% chance. And again, this is based on simulations they run. It's not an exact science. If they lose this week at Detroit, which they're about a touchdown underdog, that raises to 37 or so percent. If they lose to Detroit and Minnesota, it raises to 58%. You're probably saying, okay, why does it keep going up if they lose? Well, the reason it didn't jump as much this week with the loss to Detroit is Houston this week plays Jacksonville. They're probably going to lose to Jacksonville. But if the Bears lose their next two, Detroit this week, Minnesota next week, that jumps over 50%. Why? Because the Texans play the Titans in Week 18, and that's a winnable game. I mean, they could actually win that game against the Colts. Nick Foles stinks. Matt Ryan stinks. Whoever's playing quarterback, it's not going to matter. So that's why those odds go up if the Bears lose their final two games. Now, you look at the Bears' remaining schedule: at Detroit in Week 17, Minnesota at home in Week 18, two games that they're going to be underdogs in. Now, we'll see if Minnesota rests some starters in Week 18, but even if they do, the Bears are beat up and battered and not very good anyway, so even against some backups, the Bears would still have trouble winning that game if we're being completely honest, which is why I'll ask you this question. Will the Bears lose its final two games? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Get your votes in down in the comment section. Will the Bears lose its final two games? All right, Texans remaining schedule. Jacksonville at home, which, listen, there's a chance the Jags actually rest their starters this week. I think they'll play their guys, but Jacksonville's playoff scenario is simple. Beat Tennessee in Week 18. This week doesn't matter. Even if they win this week, Tennessee loses. If they lose to the Titans in Week 18, they're out. So for Jacksonville, this week's kind of irrelevant. So, hey, maybe they'll rest some guys, treat it like a preseason game. Maybe Houston beats them. I think the Jags win that game, though. But that game in Indy in Week 18, that's winnable. I really do think the Texans, based on how they've been playing, can beat Indy. I think they can go up on the road and beat them. Now, how motivated will Houston be these last two games to win? Well, they're playing their best football right now, and Lovie Smith isn't exactly a coach that probably has a lot of assurances for his future. You look at how Houston has played the last 3 weeks, they're certainly trying to win, right? I mean, they took the Dallas Cowboys to the ropes 3 weeks ago in a 27-23 loss. Last week against the Chiefs, took them to overtime and lost. And then in Week 16, they beat the Titans. And those are three playoff caliber teams. I know Tennessee's kind of fallen off here, and Ryan Tannehill was hurt, but still, the point being is they're playing their best football of the season. Are they just going to shut it down now that they won a game because they want to get the number one pick? I think Lovie Smith could get fired. Like, we know Flus is going to be back. They're not pulling the plug on Flus or Ryan Poles, but Houston fired David Culley last year after 1 year. You don't think they'd do the same to Lovie? I think it's very much a possibility. So if you're Lovie Smith, you're trying to win these final couple of games, and if they win one, opens the door for Chicago. All right, we'll kind of explain why I think it's important for the Bears to get the number one pick here in a moment. But first, today's show sponsored by Fetch. Do you like free stuff? That's a simple question, because nothing in life is free until Fetch came up. Fetch, which you can download for free, chatsports.com/Fetch, All you have to do to get gift cards is to scan your receipts for points. Then you can later redeem them for gift cards. It's free. It's easy. It's a very, very simple process. And guess what? All receipts count. Mom and pop stores, local restaurants, big chain restaurants, doesn't matter. Amazon, gift card, it all counts the same. You scan a receipt, you earn points, you can redeem them for gift cards. You don't have to be concerned or worry about where the receipt is from or what is on it. We'll show you how simple it is. All you have to do is open up the Fetch app, and then you click the orange camera button, snap a photo of your receipt, and then you hit the submit button, and you'll see confetti popping, which shows you that you've earned more reward points. Simple process. You can also click the e-receipt function to get rewarded for your Amazon purchases or other online shopping by syncing your email account. You can then redeem those points for gift cards at places like Amazon, Starbucks, Target, Walmart, or hundreds of others, restaurants, and retailers. Fetch is available for free on iPhone and Android. And guess what? We got a special deal for you. We're going to give you 5,000 bonus points to start when you go to chatsports.com/fetch. All you got to do is plug in promo code CHAT when you scan that first receipt. Boom, you're going to get 5,000 bonus points, which is equivalent to a $5 gift card. So when you get to 10,000 points, $10 gift card. Do again. Starbucks, Amazon, Target, whatever you want your gift card from, you can get one. Chatsports.com/fetch. Get started with the Fetch app today and start earning those reward points. All right, why this would be huge, why it would be big to get the number one pick. Well, the main reason is the Bears would control the NFL draft more than teams normally do when they have the number one pick. Why? Well, let's take a look down memory lane and look at the last 10 number one picks, right? Last year, Trayvon Walker went number one. Jacksonville was in a unique situation, like the Bears are this year, where they had their quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, but they still got the number one pick. Bears could be in that situation this year where Justin Fields is their guy. They're not going to draft a quarterback. But unlike last year, which we'll show in a minute, this year has a good QB class. Last year was Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis. Pickett's been all right, but he was never going to go top 5. This year, there's real guys. And if you look at the history of the draft, quarterbacks go number one. Joe Burrow, Cincinnati. Kyler Murray, Arizona. Baker Mayfield to Cleveland. You had Myles Garrett in there in 2017, but Jared Goff in 2016, which, by the way, the Rams traded a haul to go up and get him. Also the number 2 pick in that draft, Carson Wentz. Hall got traded to get him. Jameis Winston in 15. The point being is quarterbacks more often than not go number one, especially when it's a good QB class. That is the case this year. Bryce Young is a really good prospect. C.J. Stroud, a lot of teams are going to like him. There's a lot of chatter that Will Levis, according to some scouts and teams, might be the quarterback with the most upside. I don't think Anthony Richardson is in that top 3, top 5 conversation, but he's got a rocket arm and big-time ability. The point being is 2022 was not a very strong quarterback class. This year is. You've got at least a couple of guys, maybe 3. I'm not a big Will Levis guy, but scouts are, that teams are going to be interested in. So I'll just give you this example. If the Houston Texans get the number 1 pick, they're not trading down. They're just going to decide whichever quarterback they want, and they're going to draft them. But if the Bears get it, even the Texans sitting at number 2, let's say they like Bryce Young way more than any of the other quarterbacks. Even they may have to trade up, kind of a la Chicago with Mitch Trubisky, moving up 1 slot, just so no one else gets their guy. That is the power the Bears can hold if they get the number 1 pick, which is why it's very, very important if that opportunity comes. Now, subscribe to the channel because our offseason coverage is going to be lit, especially if the Bears do get the number 1 pick. Tons of draft coverage, free agency as well. I put out a top 25 free agent targets video on Monday. Go check that out. J.J. Watt's in there. Obviously, he's retired, but 24 other names you can keep an eye on this offseason. Hit that subscribe button. Go check out recent videos and lots more content to come as well. Now, you think about the quarterback-needy teams this offseason. These are the big QB-needy teams. We got other ones we'll take a look at here. And the numbers in parentheses, by the way, are the picks they currently have in the first round heading into Week 17. So the Texans, they have the number 1 pick and the number 11 pick right now because they have that pick from the Cleveland Browns thanks to the Deshaun Watson trade. Colts, I mean, Chris Ballard's going to be desperate. He's got the number 5 pick. Falcons, number 6. Panthers, number 8. I think you got to throw the Jets in there. I think Zach Wilson is cooked. Washington at number 21. I don't know if I would trade down with them from number 1 or number 2 just because that's a big drop-off for Chicago, but they're a team that's going to be looking to move up potentially. And then you got other potential QB-needy teams that maybe they'll draft a quarterback in the first round, maybe they won't. Detroit. Jared Goff's playing pretty good ball this year. I think it could depend on how these final 2 games go. Do they make the playoffs? Does he play well? If he does, they probably won't take a quarterback with that first pick. They probably won't look to trade up, but if he falters a little bit, kind of like Trubisky a couple years ago where he rallied but then folded late, then that could change their minds. Raiders at number 9. Derek Carr's contract is non-guaranteed after this year. They could definitely go get a quarterback. Seattle. Geno's having a good year, but is he the long-term answer? I don't know. They got the 3rd and the 12th pick. Patriots, number 14. I think they'll run it back with Mac Jones for another year, but who knows? I mean, he's kind of gotten stuck in the mud this season, hasn't taken that next step. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't think Brady's coming back there. So they enter the big QB needy list. If he leaves for now, they're on the potential QB needy list. They currently have the 20th pick. The point is, the number 1 pick is very valuable this year. You have a good QB class. You have a lot of teams that could use a quarterback. And it's a rare year, like last year, but unfortunately for Jacksonville, it wasn't a strong QB class. It's a rare year, though, that A, the Bears don't need a quarterback, and B, they have a lot of needs, so they'd be willing to trade the number 1 pick if they got the proper offer. So if you are Chicago, I'm not saying it's, vital, but if you got the number 1 pick, it could be franchise changing because A, teams are going to come calling, and B, worst case, you got control of whoever you want to draft. So that's very big as well. Now, are you all aboard Team Tank these final 2 weeks? I mean, come on. Type me if you are. I think you got to be. I'm not actively rooting for the Bears to lose, but if they lose, it's certainly not a bad thing. That's all I'm saying. Type me if you are cool if the Bears lose these final 2 games. Just a couple other bullet points and kind of rehashing here. Number 1, for reasons you want the number 1 pick. Maximum trade down potential. More teams interested. Again, you control the draft because you're not drafting a quarterback and other teams want a quarterback. And if a couple teams want a specific quarterback, they're going to want to move up to number 1 because Houston would be number 2. Number 2, choice in any prospect. If you don't want to trade down, you can pick anybody you want. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. If for some weird reason you want a quarterback, you can take them. I don't think that's going to happen, but you could do that if you wanted to. You would have any choice, any player. And then another point that I don't think gets talked about enough with these type of things, it gives you clarity in free agency. Let's say you make a trade early and you know what picks you have. Or let's say the Ryan Poles, Flus, they decide who they want to draft, and they're saying, hey, we're drafting Jalen Carter with the number 1 pick. That means we don't need to spend that heavily on defensive tackle. We can get edge rushers instead. We can get receivers instead. Whatever the case may be, it gives you more clarity for free agency, which is before the NFL draft. So it's huge. It is absolutely big. Number 2 pick is great. There's no doubt. But don't let people tell you that the difference between 1 and 2 isn't there because, oh, well, Houston's taking a quarterback anyway. But, yeah, if you get the number 1 pick and Houston loves a quarterback, they may trade up with you to get him. You only move down 1 slot and you get extra capital. I mean, that is a huge difference in my opinion. So if you could get the top pick, make no mistake, it would be massive. Now, subscribe to the channel because we will have all of the coverage over the next couple of weeks, breaking down if the Bears get the number 1 pick, if they do. And, hey, we might do a mock draft of if the Bears have the number 1 pick next week. Could do that scenario. So stay with us here. We're going to have you covered here on Bears Now.